Hey, how are you today, everybody? Oh, oh, fight the power. What's up? All right, so today is analysis stream. It's Thursday already, which is good. Um, that means it's almost the end of the week. And it's analysis stream Thursday since I'm still streaming somehow. I don't know how. We're still doing this, but exaggerations of my death have been greatly reported. Substrate meets next iPad. Oh yeah, I told you. Okay, I was gonna ask you if I told you. I know I told somebody. Most people know now that Astrobate's still alive, as I suspected. As usual, though, he's like freaking weird. He sends me an extensive, one-page email. I respond, and no answer. You know, I guess I have to wait another 4 months for the answer to that email. It's really funny because on Lichess, he would write me like pages and pages and pages of messages. But if you send him an email, he can't even respond for 4 months. Maybe he has limited internet. I think he's basically, an in-house slave, and he might have slipped out once to like get access to the internet or something. All right. He escaped his imprisonment briefly to get internet access. So, anyways, but that's good though that he's okay. That's the important thing. Not to be selfish and want him all to ourselves. Sorry, my coffee has to be stirred. Stirred, not shaken. All right. So, as usual, subs for Ponda, subs for Acerbate iPad. The Bad Beat Jackpot at Poker Club, at Duna Poker Club, which is the only really bigger poker club in Budapest, is over $40,000. And I keep hoping that I hit it. Would be nice. The odds are really small, but if I did, I would buy Acerbate. Boom, new iPad in the mail. I'm afraid his like owner would keep it though, or something. I would be scared if even if I sent him an iPad, I'd be scared he would even get it. Probably the owner, Higgins, I call him because of Magna PI. Higgins would probably like take it away or something, and not give it to him. You could you could do that where you have to sign for the packages, but then they probably would like forge Acerbate signature. Hmm. Nice hot coffee. What's up? So, Chess Zebra. In Hungarian we say zebra. Sorry, zebra. That's why Deborah is funny. So it's Deborah the zebra. In English it sounds stupid, right? Deborah zebra. No, that doesn't sound good. But Hungarian it's zebra. So Deborah the zebra makes perfect sense. Dr. Trip Chance is back. Nice day. I'm like always tired, and I have terrible sleep issues because I keep very strange hours. Like last night, for example, I played on my phone like until 4 a.m. doing mahjong. I couldn't sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning. The night before that, I played, poker until 1 a.m. Couldn't get home till 2. Didn't go to sleep till 3. So the following night, then I can't sleep till 4. And I'm always tired the next day because I can't sleep properly. Then I'm like sleeping during the day. So when I finally stream here, I feel like I just woke up. For me, it's like, for me, basically, 7 in the evening feels like 7 a.m. I'm having my coffee, I'm just waking up. Literally, no. I was already awake, but I was like tired all day, like I hadn't slept all night. So it's rough. It's rough. It's not easy being greasy. Is that what Art Vega says? Or does he always say cheesy? Does anybody watch Art Vega? Not easy being cheesy. The Minister of Potatoes. Potato Minister. Dr. Chance, welcome back. I am just gaining consciousness. That's what I'm doing. talking to the regs. Dr. Chip Chance, welcome back. Chess Sabra, thanks for being a subscriber. Guys, there is a sale on bulk gift subs or something. Don't miss the final days to save 35%. Thanks for letting me know that, Twitch, because I just found out about that. So we're going to start today's analysis stream. Subscribers, those who are subscribers, those who aren't subscribers, the Mr. Potato. Okay. Sorry. Mr. Potato. What's up, Brony? See, Mr. Coffee. Mr. The Chess Mister. Yeah, I'm trying to wake up. So we've got a game from Sun Prism for the analysis stream. We've got a game from Move 11, which I'm not sure he intended to submit, but he sent to me, so I'm going to put it in there. And then Cheesy Noob, who, as far as I know, is not a subscriber. Mr. Coffee, can you confirm or deny that Cheesy Noob is a subscriber? Minister of Coffee. You're also tired and have difficulty sleeping. Suggest conditioning yourself. Yeah. Paleontology videos make you sleepy? How about cheap videos? Yeah, but my problem is this going to sleep at different times on different nights. It's not easy to manage that. Yeah. Trying to find him. Cheesy Noob, probably not a subscriber. But anyway, if we're desperate, I'll put it in there. So, Sun Prism is the first game I got this week. And he is a subscriber. Very once in a while, or every once in a while, especially when I'm tired, I have, stuttering issues or something like dyslexia. And I think those things are related to sleep deprivation as well. I never had stuttering in school, but once in a while when I'm tired, it starts to pop up, and it's seems like it's kind of related. It's somehow related to, I need to study, maybe Dr. Chipchance or actually Mad NPC, who knows everything. All right, so anyway, Sun Prism did subscribe just yesterday, I believe. So here's Sun Prism playing white, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Now, something that is not typical for Sun Prism. Sun Prism with white was always playing the Scotch or like a Goring Gambit, right? So, very primordial sort of opening repertoire, d4. And then on e takes d4, I don't remember if he played the Scotch Gambit. I think he played the normal Scotch with knight takes d4. But I think he also played this Goring Gambit, which isn't so bad. But you may have a pleasant lightheadedness. Oh yeah, that's great. I love the pleasant lightheadedness. I'm just not sure if it's because of alcoholism or I don't know. I don't drink quite enough to be an alcoholic, but I'm always on the borderline. Lately, not so bad. I've had to be more serious, about poker, for example. I can't drink too much. Taking poker very seriously, since I'm like a half-time. I became a half-time poker cash pro. Since I can't get enough people to subscribe to the stream, at poker, International Master Bagimate comes to my table, sits on my right. Now we have two IMs who average rating, like close to 2,400. He's higher than me. He asked me, "What are you still streaming?" Yeah, I'm like, that's why I'm here, because I make no money. Because I don't have any subscribers and I don't make any money anymore. So now, all these chess players have to be I asked him, did he ever stream? No. He's shy, and I don't think he's confident in his English, although his English is pretty good. Anyways, so chess players have to do poker to make a living because no one subscribes to their chess streams. Sad but true, isn't it? Tiredness has a way of yeah, of course. That's why people have accidents when they're sleep deprived. It's just as it's exactly it's very similar to being drunk. Um, a lot of the same effects. So bishop b5 from Sun Prism here is something new. He has not played the Lopez as far as I remember, and this is great if he does. So he's venturing something new, and then Black plays this Cosio defense, and you know, it's hard to get a real vibe about this move. I mean, it seems like incredibly slow, but at the end of the day, when you compare 97 to say other moves of a similar ilk, like the Steinitz or the Smyslov, here they call it Fianchetto defense. I thought it was Smyslov. You can't trust the Lichess naming. That's like just from Wikipedia or some unofficial place. This is in many places considered Smyslov variation. So let's honor a world champion, okay? Sun Prism's here. So the thing about this is like, is it worse than those other lines necessarily? Is it worse than the Steinitz or the G6? Well, you're obstructing your bishop on f8, so in most cases that bishop has to go to g7, which takes more time anyway. I mean, if you think about like white openings, I mean, for example, like somewhere recently I saw some examples of people playing the Alapin. Here, Ivanchuk, Rockport, Ivanchuk. Few people have been playing this with white just to kind of throw something weird out there. Over the last, say, 8 years. Rockport 2022, Ivanchuk 2017, 2017, 2022. You know, so it's something people throw out there. But the main problem is that, of course, you're blocking your bishop at f1. And okay, Cosio defense with knight on g to e7. It's not scary, but it raises an interesting question as to what the best thing to do is. Open the position for the side with more development. Well, it's like a Rosslimo. Actually, this makes sense for Sun Prism because you're playing the Rosslimo against this Sicilian anyway. No, that makes complete sense, right? It makes complete sense. But opening the game, honestly, this is why chess is hard. I don't know, I mean, because like bishop on b5, it doesn't do a lot in the open type position. It's not like it's on c4 where it's hitting f7. It doesn't do a lot on b5, especially after knight to e7. So, obviously white has a choice here between castles, knight c3, another kind of arbitrary move, and c3. So, what did you play? You played d4. Okay. Nothing wrong with d4. Your Scotch instincts kick in. But I also think that it's not necessarily the best because, and this is especially the reason, the bishop on b5, it has no special value in the open position on b5. The only thing it does is inhibit black from maybe playing d5 or d6. But okay, here, fine. Black kind of has to give up the center. And now I have an interesting question. Yeah, but the answer is apparent. If you play the Gorian Gambit now, again, bishop on b5, it's not properly placed. it's in the wrong place. You know, if you want to play a Gorian Gambit, it should be on c4. So you can't really justify doing it like a Gorian Gambit. You actually castled, which should be okay, because there's no reason you necessarily have to rush to take the pawn. Most players here play knight takes d4. I mean, that's main move for sure. You can see knight takes d4 and then g6. And then alternatively, black can try this type of development with knight to c6. All right, so you castled. Doesn't change the position that much. Black has independent possibility of d5, which is a little counterintuitive. Most people here played g6 to threaten to defend the pawn at d4, forcing white to take, probably. You're going to end up in a Scotch-type situation where your bishop's on b5, which isn't great. But on the other hand, black's knight's on e7. Still, I don't love this bishop on b5. So I guess that's what I'm getting to. Like, I don't necessarily love the bishop on b5 with d4. But black plays this. You know the one thing that move does, it feels like? It justifies bishop b5. It definitely seems to justify bishop on b5 more than you know, so it's not a great move. With g6, you're like, well, why is that bishop on b5? I'd rather have it on c4. It's on the wrong square, basically. You know what I mean? So, anyways, Romanishyn Smyslov, 1981. This is incorrect. And black's problem is the king side. So obviously g6 is more appropriate. Black's problem isn't queenside development, it's kingside development with his knights on e7 and bishop on f8. So that's why this isn't so great. You know, you could go with some kind of crazy gambits like c3, but again, it's unnecessary. Takes, and now bishop d7. So now we just have like a weird Steinitz. It's a Steinitz where he decided to play knight e7, which maybe transposes to a Steinitz move order. Anyways, you have various options here. You could play c4. You can see there's two other moves that have been played, c4 and b3. You know, b3 is sometimes really excellent in the Steinitz because there's no e5 pawn. c4 is just Marazzi style, clamping down, grabbing as much space as we can before we play knight c3. It's a perfectly good move. Here you play knight c3, main move. And now we're following Motolev versus Galopoulos. The Galopoulos Islands. So Motolev, unable to beat a 2369. Disappointing. Here black played a6 in a couple of games, but that's a move that's not very logical. So I would imagine knight g6 is possible. But you're really walking into like f4 now, for example. So it's kind of last call for g6. Although that looks really dangerous because of bishop g5 now. I think it's off the table at this point, actually. You see some noobs probably play h6 around here. So basically black has to play knight takes d4. He does. And now you can capture on d7, but you can also take on d4. And there's the famous game. Black is basically, I wouldn't be 100% surprised if this was direct transmission to a Steinitz game, where Steinitz was black. Steinitz did some weird passive stuff like this. If he didn't play this exact position, he played one or two games or even more that were extremely close to this. Maybe, yeah, almost certain it might be a transposition. But you can take with the queen and then flirt, you know, with this. because the argument is these moves aren't really profitable for black so much, and especially a6. You're threatening c4, and bishop takes e7 check actually develops black's queen for him. And anyone, you know, with an ounce of common sense isn't planning on castling queenside necessarily, unless that opportunity arises. But anyways, all right, you take this, fine, queen takes, and then knight to c6. Black is very short of options here. d5 square is basically gone if you play knight g6 or something. Castle's queenside is bad. Can't play g6. Knight c6 is more or less forced, but your opponent opted for knight g6. Black here also loses d5, but he also leaves your queen on this powerful square. You know, interestingly enough, what happens typically with the queen? d3 or e3? I think if you want to be experimental, this is also interesting. The queen is quite active on c4. It has a lot of possibilities. But here, and now, in addition to the fact that he can't castle, he can't move his bishop on e7, you're being tempted into something like f4, probably. But I'm not sure that we should do that or not. Bishop g5 is tempting, but probably artificial. Your move looks good. Bishop e3. That's the most sensible move. But I certainly see, in addition to stuttering and dyslexia, I also have like speech impediment when I'm tired. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, is f4 really necessary? And even if you do play f4, do you want to play f5? Okay, you're going to give him the e5 square. Maybe we're okay with that. But it's hard not to like your move better. It's more fundamental, just like completing development. What Black's still paralyzed. You know, he has a very difficult position. I mean, Steinitz got himself into situations like this, but he was a very good defender. I imagine if Steinitz was Black, he probably would play c6 here. Just, you know, trying to keep control of d5. But how Black is supposed to complete his development is beyond me. Very bad position for Black. He can't get the kingside developed. And so the text move, you know, enables him to play bishop e7 and maybe castle kingside, but the damage to the light squares is like, you know, the light squares don't have any hit points left. They're like out of hit points. Black would be okay here if you took the queens off the board. Well, the answer to that question is not completely. Black would be more okay, much more okay, but not completely okay. I think you would still have an advantage. The fundamental advantage of White's position still exists. The fundamental advantages of White's position still exist. A lot of the fundamental advantages still exist, even with the queens magically off the board. d5 square, weakness on the light squares, less development, pawn on e4. But yeah, your point is correct. Like, if Steinitz is Black, he'd like to trade queens, and he probably would try to do so, but how? There's no really good way to try to trade queens. No apparent way to try to trade queens. No obvious way at all to try to trade queens. I don't like f6. What the heck is Black supposed to do? You know? Sack a pawn. Sack a ponda. Maybe enterprising player. I'm sorry. Not that pawn. My bad. Sack a pawn this way. Sack the G pawn, or maybe two pawns, and get the hell out of Dodge. Um, I mean, this is still ugly, and it's almost certainly unsound, but this looks a little bit shady. So what would have to be, okay, black would white rather would really have to be precise. Although yeah, this is doubtful. It's doubtful for black. It's very doubtful. Yeah, objectively, it's doubtful. So he plays f6, making the light squares worse. And then this move, which is certainly fine. Another good move is a4, because you have lift, you have just general queenside advance, maybe a4, a5, a6, knight b5. There's a lot of good things about a4, and developing a rook from its original square. f4, as the computer points out, is good, but I don't think your move is worthy of dubious. Okay, bishop e7, and here you could try this. Here's an example of a queen exchange attempt, right? Well, I'm not going to exchange queens. So I think queen c4 preventing kingside castling looks pretty good. If he goes knight e5, you drop back, and still black has the same basic issues. I mean, black is seriously worse here. He's sort of paralyzed. And this is no big deal, you know. So that I like. You let him castle. Not exactly. Okay, you played knight d5. The thing about this move is, like, are you really going to take that bishop? See, now Steinitz is happy. Not happy, but he's, like, alive. Like, if you play c6 and white takes here and black takes for the king, okay, black's still in a lot of trouble. Objectively, like, clearly worse. But maybe the exchange pieces gives black a tiny bit better chance to survive. But I'm certainly, I mean, if I was black here, I would choose, Steinitz would probably play this, actually. That's a very much characteristic move for him. Makes complete sense, you know, like, where's your knight going? So I doubt knight d5. I think knight d5 was a lazy move. He castles, though, allowing tactics with queen c4, which you should have seen because it's freaking obvious. I mean, maybe you did see it and then second guess yourself. For example, king h8. Queen takes, knight takes, rook c8 with this counterplay here. We're going to need to do some calculations, but I think you're good. So, it seems to me you probably played too fast. 95 dubious, castles, and then you missed queen c4. The engine also likes f4. But this is like settling for the minimum. Marshals. The max for the minimum. Cats play chess very well. You get along well with Mr. Coffee. Is that true, Mr. Coffee? You're the resident expert on cats. Knight takes e7 check. Minimal advantage. And now knight takes e7. I guess that way he stops queen d5 check. Although I don't know if it's a major threat. c4. Okay. Knight c6, queen d5. Queen d5 is a check. But yeah, you're going to have to calculate whether trading queens is on the menu or not. I mean, you're better, but it's a small edge. So you play queen d2. Fair enough. Although, obviously, this needs to be considered too. Queen d2, rook e8, f3. And now black has f5 ideas, but he moved the wrong rook, right? What an idiot. Why would anybody in the right mind move their F rook to E8 here? The only way you move your F rook to E8 is like you don't have the awareness of the fact that F5 is like a key break here for black. That's Curto, my old New England friend, John Curto. Played the Steinitz. He played the Steinitz deferred a lot, but he loved to play F5. This is such a basic idea, you know. It's black's only way to try to break against the E4 pawn. Man, this is so stupid. Now he can't play F5 because of Queen D5 check anyway. F3. Oh my gosh, he can play F5 anyway? Oh no. You're kidding me. Because your bishop's undefended, he could have played F5 anyway. So this is going to be a problem. Bro, he like equalizes here. Pawn takes F5, queen takes F5. You're just a tiny bit better. But king, oh no, king F8. Of course, king F8. Because he wants to get dinged by C5 and bishop takes C5 mate or something like that. King F8. Because everything's safe on the dark squares. Till it's not. Oh man, if I have to move the king, I'm moving it to H8. And I'm not loving it. Mel Brooks, 100 years old. You guys believe that? The creator of the iconic comedy Spaceballs, so many other things. Can you believe David Attenborough, Mel Brooks, and there's another 100-year-old actor out there, Dick Van Dyke. They're all 100 years old. But anyway, famous comedy show, Get Smart. There was always this one line that Maxwell Smart would say, "I'm loving it," and I'm loving it. Like I'm playing King H8 and I'm loving it. Right? No, I'm not really loving it. I'm hating it. But he would just say he's loving it. I'm hating that king having to like leave the center, but if you have to move it somewhere, you move to H8. F8 is like insane, you know. If I go here, you're like one step from death with the king on F8. So we don't check because the bishop's saying, yeah, there's no point. Yeah, I mean the other thing is like the check doesn't really matter. So yeah, he should have just played F5 anyway. He probably didn't calculate that, you know. King F8, dubious, B3, Rook D8, passive, and then boom. This was enabled by the move King F8. Well, it wasn't just enabled by that, but it was certainly even aided by that. Rook E6, C takes. Okay, C takes. Now you officially have a really good Budapest gambit. Beautiful position. I can't believe your opponent is like 2100. But you're doing nothing, a lot of nothing, and it's working. You know, you just wait for this guy to do bad stuff. Queen D3 doing nothing. You're like eyeing H7. He saw that. Rook D2. The no F5 or D5, you're okay. B6, putting the pawns on the wrong color. Now the C file is dangerous as well. You literally did nothing, right? Rook F D1, knight E5, Queen D5. Very powerful. Centralized piece. King F8 back again. Oh goody. I mean, maybe this move would be a reasonable idea at this point. King F8, Bishop F4. Okay, now you really should consider shifting to the C file, no? I think that you're winning at this point. It's a winning position. If you go Rook C2, Black plays Rook C8, and you just simply take the file, I mean, between the C file, the pressure on the D pawn, the centralized queen, the king on F8, the better minor piece, you are winning here. It's going to take a little bit more work. But bishop F4, I'm not crazy about. That's a very hollow threat, or not threat at all. King E7, another strange move with the king, and now this. Yeah, this is a catastrophe. This move is it's literally a catastrophe. Because his knight, the problem with his knight, it looks strong, but it's not a permanent outpost. In time, you can play F4 whenever you want to. So, and it's not hurting you, Your bishop and your pawns complement each other. He has nothing he can do. So you should just go to the C file. This gives away a little bit of your advantage. Well, a lot of your advantage, really. Plus, you're upgrading his pawn structure. To mention, like, rook takes is possible. Maybe he should take with the rook to drive your queen off that powerful square. To be honest, at this point, who cares about pawn structure? The pawn structure is not that much better after f takes anyway. And he would keep f5 in the game, in the mix. I think that rook takes is definitely better. Here he has no breaks. So although he upgraded his central pawns to a duo, he still has this like unforgivable backward pawn on d6, but now he has no break against a strong pawn on e4. So I'm not sure that's an upgrade. Rook c2, correct. Correct, correct, correct. Now there's a problem. And now you see what he could have done. This shows how many inaccuracies you made in this game. Because bishop on e3, knight on e5, rook c8, the idea was takes, rook c1. But now you can't do that because your rook's not protected by a bishop on e3. And now the problem is when you do this, he has rook c5. I mean, maybe it's not the end of the world. You can play queen a8. Taking, I don't love. After taking, well, no, I mean, I'm not sure which way he takes here. But rook c5, clearly superior move. Rook takes c2, rook takes c2, leaving you with an open file. Just unopposed open file. His rook is terrible. Now he has a difficult position. There. Okay. Rook c6, tying him down. And now he should probably move his king back and forth. But instead he weakens his king side. h6. Okay, queen c4. Oops. Rook e7. And now, I guess, I don't know why the engine doesn't like your move a4. Queen e6. I guess queen e6 is a problem. So you should probably go back. I don't know. Maybe queen d5. Queen d5. So this queen c4 can wait. You should have played queen back to d5. You could have done this like queenside stuff while your queen stayed there. So this isn't an accuracy because of queen e6. He misses it. The idea of trading queens. He's just totally clueless. He plays king g6. Okay, you continue your plan. King h7. Okay, whatever. You continue your plan. And then this is a really weird move. I don't understand h5. The best he can do is move back and forth at this point, or maybe offer a trade of queens. But h5 doesn't help. And now he's got a serious issue. So if rook e8, rook c7 goes here, and then h4, which doesn't look bad to me. Engine likes rook c6, whatever. Rook f7. He has no threats. Is this a threat? Well, his king is totally exposed. Here, 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 and then here back. And now rook f4. So Guy managed to come up with some kind of bit of counterplay, but you're on the d6. So his queen is unprotected. He's got no attack after queen takes h4. His rook can't move. But after rook takes h4, rook takes d6 check, he does have the move king f7 maybe. So let's see. Queen takes. You take with check. He has rook f6. He misses it. He has this check down here. I don't know if you can take his pawn on e5. That looks like a perpetual. So if he goes back, what are we doing? We have to play like queen d2 or something. No? You're still better, but it's probably a draw. But after queen d6, he's like a noob. He plays that, allowing mate in. What is this? Mate in 4. And no perpetual, because you control well, h3 and f4. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your fundamentals are okay, but you need to be more exact. You know, you need to pay more attention to subtle exactitudes. You're obviously way stronger than this opponent in terms of fundamentals, but it's the exact details of your play that aren't really in tune enough. But overall, not a bad game. So our director, I mean, the difference between the stuff I'm talking about and your game is that, you know, we're talking about the difference between 2100 and 2300. Now, the difference between a candidate master and a master, or an expert and a master, so to speak. A lot of players play, and in a fast game, it's normal, but you have to really be very, very, very precise about little details, especially if you have time. The bishop takes e5, for example, you know, your opponent made a lot of mistakes, and in the end, it's not easy to win games. Chess is hard. Hello, could you please review this one? All right. Are you still a subscriber? Sung Prison subscriber. Show us your subscribership. Our director. There you are. All right. Everybody show off your subscriber badges. Not enough subscribers, guys. We need more subscribers. Be a subscriber and show off your badges. We don't need no stinking badges. All right. That's in there. Thank you. So our next game is Move 11. He said this is his best Son Upon Lost or something. I'm sure he was joking. Move 11 is black. And this is a, fast game. 3+2. All right, it's time to open the window. Open the sticky window, man. Pigeons, get out of here. Stinking pigeons. Okay. You stinking pigeons. So, Move 11 sent me this game, and I don't even know if he meant to submit it. He didn't say specifically that this was a submission, but I'm putting it in. So, there you go. You're in. Tuesday, I was playing at the poker club, and then there was this announcement that they're gonna like take a video or something, and I get some kind of ad, like recording a video ad for the poker room, and I don't care, you know. But it was funny because like a few people like left, like they're afraid they'd be like seen on camera or something. I was like, that's weird. Why are people like afraid to be seen? They're like criminals or something. All right. It's the Mal against move 11. This is 3+2. So kind of fast game for analysis stream, and certainly for move 11. D4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, and then d5. Queen's Gambit deferred. And now white, white best move is knight to c3. Or maybe g3 with the Catalan. Those are the two best moves for white. Knight c3 or g3. Wonder about bishop f4. You got to wonder about bishop f4, right? Independent variation. Wow, the engine hates it. The engine hates it. It's terrible because of 95. Okay. Anyway, I just had this curiosity about it. So E3, Mr. Coffee in the house. There he is. Maybe their wives don't know where they go Tuesday. I know. I was like 3 out of the 9 players on my table left when they announced there'd be like a guy taking videos. Well, they wanted criminals or they want to get like paid. I was like, my table was almost emptied. It's like, I don't care. They can take videos. All right. So Mr. Coffee attack E3 and bishop E7 is the classical response here. Dusan Radic, you may send in a game. You are a subscriber. Stuttering or not, you're still a subscriber. So there are several ways to look at this. It's a passive way for white to meet the Queen's Gambit. I always thought that was the case. Another way to look at it is you're playing the Kali system with white, but colors are reversed and black has an extra move. So, like things like the Kali Koltanowski, we've talked a little bit about this type of stuff with Mr. Coffee, but Mr. Coffee likes to play this type of line with white, an E3 queen pawn game. But no, seriously, can or should black consider the idea of, let's say, like bishop d6? Because with this move, we're basically trying to play a white side of a Koltanowski. We're trying to maybe take advantage of white to some degree by playing a move that's more aggressive, more active than, say, bishop e7. And before everyone goes fully, Zucker Tort, I think it's worth noting, Sun Prism says check. Always check if you can check. I mean, check is a move, and you're black, and it's fine. And after check, white can choose between 3 different continuations, all of the above. Check is another story. But I'm just thinking, in terms of playing for a win, c6 is a semi-Slav. So bishop d6, another move, I mean, worthy of consideration, maybe this. But if bishop d6, what's interesting, only one game where white played c5, and strong players too. So Nabati against Hannes. Hannes had really dropped. He's my age. We're the same exact age, I think. Or maybe Hannes is a year younger than me. I can't remember. He might be a year younger than me. But it's interesting. Only one player played c5, but the very creative Israeli grandmaster Nabati plays a lot of interesting openings. So bishop d6 is interesting anyways. Yeah, check is fine too. White can choose between all these different moves though. Knight there, knight c3 transposing to a Nimzo, and bishop d2, which is very solid, trading his bad bishop off. If bishop d2, you could go back, but you kind of gave white a free move there. It's a good question. I don't know. So anyway, c5, lots of moves are possible. Bishop b7, knight c3. You know, um, I played this position with white a number of times, and I always reference the Richard Pallister book on d4 from the early 2000s. Pallister prevents. I'm freaking sleep deprived. Presents a e3 repertoire against the Queen's Indian, I think, and maybe against some other things, but I don't remember this position. How bishop d3, castles, b3. You know, sometimes Wade has ideas of playing like bishop a3, as if he were black. So bishop d3 is a decent move. Of course, black could respond by taking. That's probably equal immediately. So knight c3. Mr. Coffee, you played b3 now, for sure. Maybe b3, also one of the best moves, but nothing special. It's like equal. Knight c3, castles, and now only one player wins Secretariat here. Out of 100, oh my god, 100. 1.2 thousand master games. Only one player played the move c5 here. And it's tied with, oh no, even h, yeah, h3 is not so stupid. I'm surprised people don't gambit g4. I'm sure like Timur Gariev would be in there with something like Emery Tate, rook g1, h3, played by Kramnik. Oh my god. h3 was played by Kramnik, and he lost to Karyakin. That little piece of... But no, seriously, c5 played only by no one that we've ever heard of in 2002. Why is it so bad? The answer is, who cares? The answer is obvious. He can't maintain the pawn chain, right? So b6, boom. Yes, Mr. Coffee, you got it right. And here, Mikhail, whoever, 2338, yeah. If that guy was 2338 in 2002, I'll tell you what his rating is in 2026. I was like 2460 in 2002, and now I'm like 2300. So if this guy was 2338 in 2002, he's probably like 2050 now. B6, B4, yeah, because what's the point in C takes B6, right? Total concession. This is equal, but black is playing for an advantage with A takes B. Black went on to win. But B4 can't be upheld. This is a real disaster for white, especially because of this. I mean, this is, dude, is this like lost for white? Is like white just borderline lost? Like losing everything? You can't play A3. Bishop A3 is shaky, bad. Can you try bishop A3? I mean, it looks like, yeah, maybe the only attempt. Bishop A3, A takes B, bishop takes, and then you can choose between knight C6 and knight A6. Knight A6 would force white to part ways with their light square bishop, which looks horrible for white. The engine actually likes losing a pawn best with B5. That's how bad white's position is, just losing a pawn. Basically, like, practically no compensation. But I think the critical moment is here, and it's a 3+2 game. We have to take on b4, but now at the moment of truth. Now, move 11 here made a move that I did not consider, and it's certainly solid. And there's nothing wrong with bishop a6. But boy, there's an awful lot of options here for black. Dude, there are a lot of options in this position for black. Knight a6, knight c6, pawn takes pawn. The aforementioned bishop a6, which was played in the game. So yeah, you have 4 candidate moves, and I would think like probably more. In fact, another one. You have another one, knight bd7, maybe even knight fd7. This is not absurd. To keep control of c6 with the b knight, like in the Panov a lot of times. White is gonna have to play. It looks like white has to play like knight a4 in order to like not collapse completely. And that doesn't look good either. So man, the problem here is deciding like which is the best move. I mean, I'm really liking knight a6. There maybe a3, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes a6, for example. My first line was bishop takes a6, bishop takes a6 with advantage to black. There's stuff like this. Maybe white could put his king on f2, try to live without the light square bishop. So I'm not convinced, that this is that deadly. I guess I was leaning toward this. a3 takes on c5 and relying on this pawn being weak. Maybe we play like bishop takes c5, bishop takes c5, pawn takes c5 and e5, but then you've got to deal with bishop e5. So that gets kind of sharp. But I mean, here, for example, you can play bishop a6 whenever you want, I don't know about move 11 playing it right away. I mean, it's not bad. Because if he takes, you're all set. But maybe he just hangs out. Bishop e2. He ended up playing bishop d3. I just want to check this position with the engine. I mean, maybe if you take here, I'm going to take with the bishop because, and then this. I mean, this pawn looks really bad, right? We should be able to win that pawn. One way or another, I think we're going to win the pawn. Maybe we can win it by force. Let's say we want to win it by force. Queen e7. And then the only way to protect it is with like the queen. There we have knight c6 winning it directly anyways. And if he tries knight a4, we just go bishop d7. So, yeah, I guess ultimately probably pawn takes pawn is the best move. Let's see what the engine says. Move 11 with the engine instinct. Bishop a6, engine number 1 move. Just not even caring about going for the pawn. But the other moves are very good. This is very good, and this is very good. But surprisingly, this patient bishop a6 is also the computer's number 1 choice. Amazing. And you found that using no time in a 3+2 game. Okay, you got lucky. Bishop d3. I thought maybe bishop e2. Not that it makes like a big difference. I mean, it doesn't really make any big difference. Maybe white has more options, like king takes e2, knight takes e2. But I mean, he's got a bigger problem over here. This is going to be a problem no matter what. So bishop d3, queen d3, and then knight a6. So this is ultimately okay. Move 11's point. You get in bishop a6, and then you eliminate the square bishop, and your knight goes to a6, and you win a pawn anyway. And the computer's point as well, still winning a pawn. Very strong. You just tore him apart. Bishop c5, knight takes c5, and now he garners the bishop as well. And so he got like a perfect set-upon loss for this game. Knight e5. Yeah, this is unnecessary. Queen e8 is always good. Light square coverage. But we don't really like this. So, okay. Here. F4. And then the Schieberspieler here, you know. Definitely playing Queen a6. But trading queens with the white king in the center, suboptimal. So I think a tactically minded player here would probably consider a lot of things. Knight d7, you have to watch this. The queen position is a little sketchy. This will just allow white to castle. He's probably a little bit happy about that. So move 11 played disruptive d4. And obviously pawn takes pawn is a total disaster. Or is it? So if pawn takes pawn, trading queens is not really the plan. What do we do? Do we play bishop b4? Then white gets away with castles. I mean, even that's possible. Seriously. But with threats of like rook a3, would probably not. We'd probably take with the bishop, right? And then what do we do on this? No, I don't see it. I don't see it. You have to find some kind of very deep attacking plan, like queen d5, which is similar to the game. So e takes d4. Yeah, this is a tricky position. The guy did not play the best move there. He blundered with knight b5. This would have posed a problem. I don't know what move 11 would have played. The computer wants to do this and go into the endgame. But it's counterintuitive with the white king exposed to trade queens here. I would be inclined not to trade queens. And so you have to find like a quiet move now. Bishop b6. If white castles, then you take, check, take on e5. So this would have been a much more testing move. Instead, move 11's opponent did that, which looks good at first. But then you see, I mean, I guess primarily the d5 here, and there's no time for this because of queen takes g2, and white's going to get just destroyed by rook takes a2 and queen takes g2. So taking on c7 is irrelevant. But it's a pity that white didn't play pawn takes d4. It would have been a better try. After knight b5, queen d5, white lost on time. But clearly there's nothing he can do. You know, actually, maybe his best try is something like e4. No? Sacking another pawn objectively. Of course, black is 100% winning, but what do we do? Again, we're probably going to have to trade queens, I assume, with a winning endgame. We're a couple pawns up in an endgame, but, you know, Good game by move 11. What was the center pawn loss, finally? So let's see. Surprised the game hasn't been analyzed yet. Perfect game by black. Nice job, move 11. 3, 4, 9, 8. Okay, 8 center pawn loss. 8 center pawn loss. Very suspicious. Not my record. I have like a 4 or a 3. Okay. Now, does anybody want to donate a gift sub to Cheesy Noob? Mr. Coffee, did you check? Did you check on Cheesy Noob if he's a subscriber? He said always check. Did you check or not? Couldn't find his exact name. Oh yeah, on Twitch, I don't know. So we'll have to leave that for now. All right, so we got a couple of master games to go over, and then if anyone else from the subscribers. Oh, you sent in the game, Redusa. You sent it. Okay. It's Reduce C. Okay. Always hard to remember. Your settings don't let you. I don't know why I don't get the messages from you. Wait, Uber driver sent me something. Or is that me? Oh no, that was me. Okay. Get PGN. Get PGN. Is that grammatically correct? Copy. 66 moves. Better not be the game against me. Oh no. Oh no. It's the game against me. Oh no. Alright. That's fine. I went over all the games from yesterday. Yeah, Cheesy Noob also submitting his game against me. But, fine. I went over this, my other computer yesterday. From the black side. This is against Reduce A8. So, we're looking at it from your side. You know, what does the computer say? A6 is best. Interesting, the engine doesn't like, and the statistics don't seem to like Kasparov's favorite knight A6 Prince variation. But I don't know, you know. I mean, Gary has been very faithful to knight A6, as far as I remember. I was looking at this a few years ago with my friend Julian Estrada, thinking of playing the Grunfeld, and I feel like the moves that had the best record for black are the classic Pinter variation. We used to call this the Pinter variation during my friend Yoji. He's a really good guy. And also been a coach for, he's getting up there, but he was a coach for the Hungarian teams for years. And knight A6 are the two moves that are main lines in modern theory. But I wanted to say this old line is still fine. I mean, it's playable. The problem is bishop E3. I noticed that some people actually play knight E5, but it's nothing. Knight E5 is a move, it's like equal. This game from Chancellor Ivanchuk. Chancellor's like the only person who plays this. Chancellor Ivanchuk, knight E5, bishop E6, D5 Bishop c8. Chancellor Ivanchuk. It's a good result to draw Ivanchuk. Bishop e2, e6. But it's just equal. That's nothing special for white. So white's only move to get a real advantage is bishop e3. And the plan is castle queenside. Botvinnik lost 2 games to Petrosian. And I think one of them was in this, if I'm not mistaken, when Botvinnik lost the World Championship in 1963 to Petrosian. Petrosian had one game where he castled long. You know, you think, well, Petrosian is this very solid player, but not always. He could attack too. But it makes sense. I mean, white's options here. Botvinnik played bishop e2, but it's more passive, you know. This is like reacting to bishop g4. The pressure is on d4. The Grunfeld, the idea is to attack d4. Bishop g4 is about attacking d4. And if that's the case, then this makes more sense than bishop e2. Bishop e2 doesn't help protect d4. Bishop e3 helps protect d4, but it also allows us to play rook d1 or castle's queenside. So that's the best move. Instead, you didn't play either of the normal moves or even Chancellor's knight e5. You played this weird bishop f4, which I never saw in my life. So I'm like, what is that? You know, that can't be right. So I was checking this yesterday to see how my reaction was, you know. And I didn't have time. Okay, Redusa plays this move. It's a 5+3 game. I'm doing videos about the Grunfeld lately, and as I preach ideas about the Grunfeld, the most fundamental thing in the Grunfeld is the idea of playing c5, right? So what do you think black's best move is here according to the engine? Well, shocker, shocker. But you have to calculate a lot to make c5. I'm like, well, I don't know, you know, if it's sound, if it's enough. I have enough compensation if I play c5. How do I know if this is the right move, if it's good enough? And it's a complicated thing to play. So I'm thinking about c5, and I'm like, no, that's too complicated. The engine doesn't like it either. All right, I was looking at it on another computer. So that computer is not as fast as this one. Apparently, black's best move is really cool. Knight fd7, which I also looked at yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't save it in the study. Knight fd7, and then bishop takes c7. And again, this is beyond my capability, but black's best move is queen c8. This is really a messed up variation. So, bishop takes c7, queen c8, bishop g3, I think. And it was something like queen d8, bishop c7, queen c8, bishop g3, queen d8. Something absurd. Like it's a draw by repetition. Well, okay, I'm not finding that. So anyway. But I was thinking that in this position, after bishop f4, it's funny that the Konopka, okay, that guy's average IM, and another game, Michael Kleinman, I don't know him. Black played the same move in both games, bishop takes f3. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with bishop takes f3, but it's also like not necessary to play bishop takes f3. It doesn't do anything other than damage white's pawn structure. It's not really dynamic. So my move here, which is a mortal sin in many variations of the Grunfeld, was actually okay. c6. And then check this out. We transpose to a whole bunch of games. So you got to ask yourself, like, how does that happen? How did we transpose all these games? It must be a different move order, right? This must be a bishop f4. And their black's best move is c5. Or not. Again, unclear. No, c6 is best. Now e4. And now Fischer would probably play queen a5. Bishop g4. And we transposed. So we transposed to an actual variation. An unusual one with bishop f4. And now you played what? h3. Very bad. Knight e5 is possible. Rook d1 is logical. But h3 is not good. This is a bad move. Not constructive. Now black is better. Bishop takes f3, g takes f3, and then, yeah, I think the computer wanted to look at knight h5. But I just simply play knight d7. The idea is simple. We're just going to play e5. And, but maybe knight h5 is stronger. Because we have this, and we have d4. Do you have to play bishop e3? I mean, unless you're going to do that. b5. Very strange position. Anyway, knight on bd7, reasonable. I have knight b6. And then occupying d5. And now you should have played castles queenside. That's risky, but you got to do something. Maybe bishop e3. This is really bad. h4 is terrible. e5. And then I thought you would take with the pawn, probably. But it doesn't really make a difference. Oh, you did take with the pawn. Okay, knight h5 here. And then I was proud I found the best line here for black. Calculated it. Knight takes e5. Bishop d8. Knight takes c4. And now you miss bishop e7, which was my point. I couldn't play this variation until I had calculated what to do after bishop e7. But I had seen this far, influenced again by Bobby Fischer games I've been looking at and whatnot. I had seen knight takes b2, and I knew that white was in deep trouble here. But white decided to just recapture on c4. And now I'm just way better. But I was surprised when the engine here prefers to play rook fd8. So I have no idea why. Rook fd8. I guess something deep about f7 is irrelevant, and I'm just going to use this rook over here or something. I thought my move was fine. Rook d1, b5. Winning position for black. But now, right around here, I missed a5. Knight f4, rook d2. Here I missed a5. I mean, I saw a5, but I was afraid of a4. So I'm totally winning. And I'm not going to go over this whole game because it's extremely long. We're going to skip over parts. The middle part was really long and sort of ridiculous, but this part was interesting. Here I played h5. It's a good move, but it's instructive that I missed this because I was afraid you would have a4. And apparently this is really bad for white. Check. King e2. Yeah, I didn't see this. That's kind of subtle. Because I'm only looking at stuff like knight takes b2, basically. My fear was this type of situation would arise where white could maybe get a draw in some sort of ops-colored bishop. Rook takes b2, bishop takes c3, rook c2, and b4. But it's hard to break the blockade on the light squares. Maybe some sort of h5. Okay, I should play. Yeah, you should play h5. So this is my thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm only up one pawn in opposite color bishop and rooks, and I'm having trouble with this blockade on the light squares. Even though objectively this is probably winning for black, that was my fear of playing a5. So I played h5, and then I thought this was a great move. White plays king d1. That deserves a double exclamation point. I miss a5 again, playing a little simply. And now the shocker of the year, the computer wants you to play king e3, which is like, I don't think there's any good player in the world who plays king e3 in this position. I mean, seriously, king e3, going right into bishop h6. If you play that, you're a computer, because I have no idea. It looks like you're just mating yourself, you know? So anyway, that's impossible move. King c2, this is a safe square, and now I missed this move, which is really strong. And Redusa should have lost, but he stayed in the fight. This is a terrific move by white, a4. Another great move, even though you're -4. You played a lot of great moves. King d1, rook d2, king d1, king c2, a4. All of these moves deserve like exclamation points. Here, knight a2. And now I finally play a5. It's not even the best move. Knight c1, great blockading plan. King e7, bishop c4. Now I have this problem with the white squares again. Bishop d4, knight b3, bishop b6. I mean, rook h2, come on. Rook d1, king d1. And now I made some mistake. I should have played g5 right away. But I didn't calculate it. That reminds me of a recent game we looked at. Mr. Coffee, remember? You, of all people, should remember. The H-pawn from hell, right? I had it the same one here. But, you know, he's got me in feeling like I'm in time pressure. I go for this, king e2. Then I saw that my knight is pseudo boxed in on h4, f6. Here, again, a great move. So the bishop can attack the pawn from behind and maybe defend this diagonal. Knight takes h4. Now my knight is sort of stuck. If knight g2, he has king f3. So now another really difficult moment. I played this. And then white should have played e5, but he made a mistake. He played f5. And here I was really tempted to push the pawn. Apparently what I did was good enough. It was all good enough. But it's opposite color bishop 2 pawns up. It's not a walk in the park automatically if you're not a computer. And I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. And I'm winning until the end. But then something really dumb happens. We're both down under 40 seconds now. He keeps defending like a genius. And just when I'm completely winning, still holding on to c4. What a defender. h4. Bishop is overloaded, right? King f1 waiting. Bishop d4 now. All of his stuff is overloaded. And I'm winning, breaking through. Sacrifice the a pawn, but we break through. Knight takes, and now his bishop again, overloaded, right? It can't protect everything. White gets the stupid outside pawn on a file. I'm still winning. This isn't best. And now a5, bishop a7, knight c1, b h2, king g2. Now this is the odd move, right? There was one moment where my best move was like h1 check, according to the computer. I don't know if it was here. No. Okay. So I only have one winning move in this position. King c2. I'm down to 10 seconds, and so is he. I miss it. Now knight e2 check is a draw, and I saw it. He didn't see it. He plays bishop takes c4. Now he's lost. But this is the position, I guess, where I could have played h1 check. Okay, whatever. I just take. He takes here, and now I freaked out. It's so stupid. Like, as soon as I played the move, I was like, oh my god. So you're both with 12 seconds left. It's been a long game. I'm winning so long as he can't sacrifice for the last 2 pawns. So king d5 is winning, for example. King c3 is winning. But what's not winning is b3. He takes, I take, and now my bishop is overloaded because it has to protect f4 and stop the a pawn. So here, he's just fast enough. What a joke, right? And by one tempo, he saves the game. All right, that was really amusing. Anyway, let's do another Grunfeld while we're on the subject. So another Grunfeld. Fischer, black from, this is Bobby Fischer in Havana, 1962. Capablanca Memorial. Connor McChicken. Bobby Fischer finished tied for second in Havana without going to Havana because he was stopped by the U.S. State Department. So he played the whole match from a telex, from the Marshall Chess Club tournament. 21 round tournament in Havana. Fischer played from the Marshall Chess Club. At that time, by telegraph or whatever, and it cost a lot of money. In those days, I guess like thousands and thousands of dollars for that much, like telegrams or telegraph, whatever the hell it was, telex, to Cuba. I mean, I don't understand how it worked. They had telephones. I don't understand exactly, but whatever. Fischer wasn't there physically, but he was allowed to play. They did USSR versus the world matches like that. Also where the players weren't there physically. Anyway, he was the only player who wasn't at the tournament. Interestingly, like Petrosian, no, maybe it was 65. I'm sorry, guys. It was 1965. It wasn't 62. So Petrosian was world champion, I want to say. Maybe not. Was Spassky already? I don't remember. Because neither Spassky or Petrosian, this was a very strong tournament in Havana in 1965 that was won by Smyslov, who was no longer, world champion. Botvinnik wasn't world champion any longer. He also didn't play. Botvinnik was absent. Spassky was absent. Petrosian was absent. And Smyslov was the top Soviet player. But a lot of foreign players in Cuba. Ivkov was leading the whole tournament from Serbia, Borislav Ivkov. And sadly, he lost to this guy, this noob that Fischer beats in this game. He was a bottom feeder. And Ivkov lost to the guy in a winning position, blundered the tournament, and Smyslov won first place. And obviously this all happened before Saji was born, but I'm too late to be on the Fischer generation. The other interesting thing is, you hear this name Garcia. There was a famous Cuban player, but he was Guillermo Garcia, and they have the Cubans have a memorial tournament, I think, for Guillermo Garcia, but this is a different dude. He's not to be confused with Gildardo. Gildardo Garcia was a Cuban grandmaster. Was a Colombian grandmaster who lived in the States until he passed away a few years ago. Gildardo, Colombian. This guy, bottom feeder, and okay, he's a master. But Guillermo Garcia was famous. All right. So anyways, d4, knight f6, now c4, g6, Fischer's black, knight c3, d5, cd5, knight d5, e4, knight takes c3, b takes c3, and now an unusual move by white, but not by today's standards. But in 1965, it was weird. Pretty much, well, pretty much like everybody played bishop c4. Sorry, after bishop g7. The variation with knight f3, the modern exchange variation, wasn't really played yet. And everybody played, this was Spassky's favorite. So everybody played bishop c4. And it still might be the best move. The jury is out. But Fischer like studied all the main lines like crazy. But this move, it was like people didn't normally play that. This would become popular later. And when I went to Boston in 1990, Kasparov and Karpov had several games in this variation with c5, queen d2. So this is something that became, you know, in the 80s and 90s, a main line. But the funny thing was, like, Fischer didn't know what to do after c5. He's probably expecting white to maybe transpose or whatever. So the guy plays bishop c4, and now Bobby tries to punish the guy's move order, which maybe is justified. Fischer finds the best move according to Stockfish here. But the takeaway was that apparently Fischer used too much time. He was using like tons of time. And normally he had all of his openings worked out and he played quickly. And in this game, he used a ton of time. So here he could have just played like the normal move, knight c6. The dude probably would have played 92 and they would have transposed back into the main line. So it's Fischer himself who essentially like forced the game out of book by trying to punish the dude, and he played queen a5, and this is Engine's #1 move. Punishing white on this diagonal, obviously. By the way, white's supposed to play queen d2, and this was featured later in the World Championship between Karpov and Kasparov. After queen d2, queen a5 is still a main line, and that can be seen later. But this is a weird hybrid. I think Fischer should have played knight c6, just transposing. He plays queen a5, dude plays queen d2. We're in some kind of like Grunfeld twilight zone now, where it's not a bishop c4, but it's not a bishop e3 variation. It's something like in between. Fischer can castle or play knight c6. He castles. And then it gets really weird, because white kind of needs to develop, but it's not easy to decide, like, okay, where to put the knight, first of all. Secondly, this rook on the diagonal is a problem. So oftentimes rook c1 or rook b1 are played in those kind of variations. Guy plays rook b1. There's the Cuban master, who I can't remember his name, who played this idea against me back in 1988. One of the first masters I ever played when I was early Grunfeld /G. Maybe I'll remember the guy's name, but rook b5 is awkward. You know, if you try to do that and like grab the pawn on c5, your rook ends up in a very exposed position. So I don't think rook b1 is so much about playing rook b5. It's like tying black down. You're tying black down to b7. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, okay? This is free real estate I'm giving away here. Mr. Cheesy Noob, Mr. C4 Cheesy Noob, tip $5. Mr. C4 Cheesy Noob, I didn't mention this. Tip $5. We're up to 405. Thank you, Mr. C4 Cheesy Noob. Why C4 Cheesy Noob? So rook b1 is about b7. It's about getting the rook off the diagonal, less about rook b5. But here Fischer does something that I think was a practical mistake. He trades queens against this guy, this like bottom dweller. In a round robin tournament, you're one of the top players. You target the lower rated players. It's like going to a poker game and recognizing the fish and trying to play pots against those fish. When you play in a round robin tournament, I have 100 round robin tournaments. I played in tons of round robin tournaments. You're thinking about like, I want to beat those weak guys. Um, this is a target for Fischer. He's counting on beating this guy. I don't think trading queens is the greatest idea against him. So I think this is how Fischer got in time pressure. Sure, for Mr. Coffee for Cheesy Noob on his behalf. It's Mr. C for Cheesy Noob. I get it. So Fischer, if Fischer was Smyslov, he would have played this. I think the Smyslov would have just, the Smyslov would have just, or Peter Svidler, they would have played knight d7. Just chilling. Being chilling. Defending c5, giving us knight b6. Fischer trades pawns and then trades queens. And this is normally fine, but can you win? White has a stronger center. We have counterplay against said pawn. King takes d2. Now, there are two games that were subsequently played in 96 and 2005. Severeni Adam has a game here. He's a friend of mine. He's a decent IM, and he's played the Grunfeld his whole life. And he played knight c6. But here, Severeni's opponent, weird guy, I think a very strange guy, Chaba Varga, played knight f3. But, maybe white should play knight e2 to avoid like bishop g4. I don't know. Knight f3, maybe Varga's move is better, and this guy's move is better because it does control e5. So now, this is a really interesting point in this game. Obviously, like, white has the center, but black's counterattacking, and white's king is in the center of the board, so it's like a typical Grunfeld. But it's ironic, there are 3 games at master level played later. One, Brink Clausen in 1981. I think it's like Mats Soberg, some Swedish guy against the Danish master. The Hungarian game, and then another game from 2005. But they all played the stereotype move here, rook d8. And the interesting thing, when you analyze master games, this is Robert Fischer. This is one of the best 3 players of all time that played this game with black. What's the difference between Bobby Fischer and normal humans? Fischer doesn't play the automatic move like the other guys, because Fischer is thinking on a deeper level. So this move that maybe some people would say is passive, I think it has a concrete idea. You're changing the situation. If white plays d5, you've already played e6, and you're going to take. And if white recaptures with like the pawn, he's going to have this like weak pawn. So e6 isn't about being like fearful. It's about thinking. You're not being dogmatic. And rook d8 is a very dogmatic move. It's a good move, but white has bishop d5. And I think this was Fischer's concern. What do I do if Garcia plays bishop d5? Bobby Fischer prevented bishop d5 before white could even play it. And here Brink Clausen played knight takes d4. I mean, I think that this is fine, but it might be a draw, dude. It's like a draw. I don't know how he beat this guy. It's going to all liquidate out into a draw. And black also can play e6, bishop takes c6, b takes c6. And I think that Fischer didn't like this. I mean, his bishop looks a little bit funky, but we have e5. Maybe this is critical line. Anyway, Fischer plays e6. White plays king e2. That's probably best. Notice there's a game here from 2013 between some Chinese guys. And honestly, I'll be honest, this is a crazy ass move, h4. You are not well, you know? That's like Redusa would play that move. This is really insane. I mean, your king is center board, now you're playing h4. It's a dangerous move. That's a very dangerous move. All right. Anyway, so white plays king e2, sensible. Now he can defend with rook d1. Black plays b6, rook c1, bishop b7. There's knight a5. White reinforces d3, bishop d3, e4. And then we get to the really interesting part of this game. There are more games that transpose to this game. There's Asian Championship zonal, I don't know. Dao against Sashkiran. Dao was like the first Vietnamese grandmaster who played here in First Saturdays a lot before I came. Unbelievable. Like, this dude, this Vietnamese guy, was playing GM tournaments in Hungary in the early 90s. Early 90s. Think about that. Not 96, 97. Like 90, 92, 93, 94. And the Vietnamese players started to play a lot in Budapest and develop like a school almost here. And that's how Le Quang and Nguyen Hoi Min and a lot of others, Ngoc Tronson, they all became very strong players playing here in First Saturday. But this was probably in an Asian tournament against Krishnan Sashkiran. Sashkiran here played rook f c8, which I think is the worst move. It's fine, but it's not as aggressive as placing a rook on d8. So the funny thing is, Fischer plays rook ac8. Sashkiran played rook fc8, which is like safe, but nothing special. But, you know, why not play rook d8? I mean, this will transpose, actually, to some other games. Look at this. William Charpentier against Leonardo Valdez, Costa Rican player who's also played here a lot in First Saturday. But Fischer plays rook a8. White plays now rook c2. And then Bobby changes his mind. He's like, no, I changed my mind. I'm going to go here. That was weird. You know, why would Fischer play rook c8 and then rook d8? Well, I guess he admitted he made a mistake. And so now what happens? White plays rook c4. This is very awkward. And Bobby plays like Boris Spassky. No. Smyslov, I mean. He plays f5. And it's like, it's a Sicilian type position. After f5, it looks like a closed Sicilian. Could have played h6, but it's slow, and white mounts pressure along the c file. So f5, very dynamic. e5, and now Bobby should have played, I think he should have played maybe h6 to control the g5 square. He plays knight a5, and now white doesn't play rook c7. This is a very good move. He's going to maybe regret that later. He goes rook a4. The rook ends up very awkwardly placed on a4. This will actually lose the game for white. It doesn't have to, but ultimately it does. And so why would you choose to not put your rook on c7? You know? Rook f7 is really bad because of rook takes rook and knight g5 check, followed by knight takes h7, threatening bishop g5 check. That's really bad. So that's not an option. If rook c7, Fischer would have to like either move his bishop or contest the open file with like rook to c8. White blunders with rook a4. Black plays rook d7. Looking like, oh, we're better, right? Not so simple. Because of, boom, knight g5. The guy's suddenly better. Knight g5, bishop d5, guarding this pawn, attacking a2. But watch this, bishop d2. Now, how much pressure do we have on the d4 pawn? What? What? Zero. Right. Zero pressure on d4 pawn. And that's the problem with such blockade positions. You know? A lot of the time when an opponent has a backward pawn, if a tree falls in the forest, no one is there to hear it. Does it make a sound? If a backward pawn isn't attacked and no one's there to take it, is it weak? Right, Mr. Coffee? So it's really nice that we have good control of d5, but what are we going to do with it? You know, there. He comes back attacking the d4, but then there's this nasty pin. Rook c8, king e1, avoiding any kind of checks. So it's a really good game. h6, knight goes back to h3, and now g5, and now trapping or boxing in that knight on h3, f3, bishop f8, repositioning this. Notice the rook. How many squares does this rook have? Knight f2. By the way, white misses a really strong move here. Knight g1, knight e2, knight g3, knight h5, knight c3, etc. He plays knight f2. Rook d c7. Bishop a6, that's annoying. Rook d8. And by the way, this guy is not so bad. He cost the Serbian, what's his face? Ivkov, the tournament. There was no bishop takes g2 earlier. Because like e6 was hanging. This e6 is hanging, so he had to defend it. e6 is too important. And this is where things got really crazy. Fischer finds a brilliant move, a5, and the rook is stuck on a4. Knight d3, rook f7. It's a weird move, but he gets out of this pin. And now white became a little optimistic. But I think here white is absolutely okay. But his one problem is the rook on a4. It's not so easy to get the rook off of a4. Serious question. Serious question. How do you get the rook off of a4? Here. It's problematic. And even if white can like trade the bishop off with like bishop c4, black doesn't have to trade. He can just like sit there. And that's what happens in the game. Fischer ends up leaving the bishop on d5. White tries to like free the c4 square for his rook. Fischer won't cooperate. Now the rook still has no squares. And the beat goes on. Watch what happens next. This is ambitious. Knight a7, like Rockport. And now he forces bishop c4. And Fischer just leaves it. So if he takes, white's golden. White is absolutely okay. He gets that rook off. It's a game. He doesn't take. He leaves the pawn to take back, right? King e2, rook c6, knight f2, rook f c7, bishop takes d5, e5. Now, check this out. I imagine that both sides are in time pressure, and it's getting close to move 40. The rook still has nowhere to go. It still has nowhere to go. It can't go anywhere. And you're playing Bobby Fischer. You're like, fuck, my rook is stuck. But black still has no way to win it. You can't attack it with like b5 because the a5 pawn drops. So while the rook is stuck, it's still a problem because you just can't attack it with anything. So white plays rook b1. This is actually a good move. No problem. Bishop e7, hg5, hg5, king d3, rook d7. We make the time control. Knight d1, king f7. And the guy is okay, right? The guy is okay until two more moves. He plays knight c3. It totally makes sense to get control of b5, and black can't really make progress. White has a protected pass pawn on e5. This guy should have held a draw. But now, this is funny, like double blunders. Fischer plays a good move, bishop b4. And then, surprisingly, I guess you're threatening b5, right? All right, so this is complicated. What is white supposed to do here? In those days, there was no digital clocks. It was 1965. There are analog clocks with a 40-move time control. A lot of times you're like scribbling down the 40th move, you make the time control, but you're not sure if you made 40 moves or not. And I don't know that the arbiter's allowed to tell you and stuff. So I know from experience that a lot of times people would have to make like one or two extra moves just to be sure they made the time control. And your opponent doesn't have to tell you if you made enough moves. Like, you have to keep an accurate score. And the arbiter isn't supposed to tell you. So in my experience, a lot of blunders were made, especially in the stage where you like just after the 40th move. Say white's in time pressure and he's not sure if he made 40 moves or not. He has to find the right move now to not lose. And I think it's something like 92. But the question is, the guy must have figured he's lost because of b5, right? It looks like it loses to b5. Maybe the guy has a really strong, Garcia has a really strong exchange sack here. Shit. But it's hard to judge that in time pressure, man. He has two exchange sacks. He has three different exchange sacks, but only two of them are good. Bishop takes b4, b takes a4, bishop c5. This is slightly better for white. Check that out. And then the other one, rook a takes b4, a takes b4, and then bishop takes b4, rook c4, bishop c5, attacking the knight. Equal. Difficult to judge. The other move that white had also was knight d1, if I remember correctly. Similar, but different. Anyway, so the guy thinks he's in time pressure, not sure if he made 40 moves. He blunders with a3. Now, here's a question to everybody in the audience, all 6 of you, because we have 6 viewers. I'm very happy for that. Because we're analyzing a Bobby Fischer game. Nothing instructive here, in depth. We have 6 viewers, because they'd rather watch random noobs play bullet chess, whatever. Okay. Why is a3 bad? Serious question. Yeah. Fischer blunders in this position. It's like the ultimate Nimzo, I guess. After a3, bishop takes knight. Check out this rook on a4. It's game over for the rook. Like, Garcia's going to have to sack a piece at some point. or he's just never going to have a rook, basically. So I assume it was like mutual time pressure. They're not sure if they made 40 moves or 41 moves or 42 moves, because they made a lot of mistakes right between moves 38 and 42. Fischer actually misses bishop takes c3, not realizing how crushing this is strategically. White is like just stuck. So he plays bishop e7. The problem is a3 took away the rook's like only square. Now his rook has 0 squares. So it's even worse than it was before for white. Because at least in some cases, the rook could have gone to a3. So I love this. If you go to like the stupid like chess database websites, like the old chessgames.com, these people are so stupid. They're like, why did Garcia sacrifice his knight on d5? I don't understand. He sacrificed his knight for one pawn. Why did he do that? Why did he sacrifice his knight? I'm President Trump, and I would not sacrifice my knight on d5. I don't understand. Because the dude's fucking like lost here. His rook is paralyzed. He's in total panic mode. Even if he does like knight b5, rook b5, how are you going to get your rook off of a4? Can someone explain that to me? How exactly that's going to happen? You're never going to get your rook off of a4. You're down a rook effectively. He sacked the knight on d5. It was a practical try. You know, at least now he has like 2 connected passed pawns, and his rook can actually get out. So this was objectively a blunder, but I mean, the guy made a practical decision there. I think it was good. Knight takes d5, rook takes d5, king e4, and then Fischer's winning after rook b5. Rook h1, king g6, rook h8, rook b2, bishop b4, and white doesn't have any good moves. His bishop's trapped. So this doesn't lose a piece because you're pinning to the a7 knight. It's a trade. Bishop takes b4. He frees his rook. A takes b4, knight b5, rook a1. Yay, we have a rook, right? You're just down a piece, so he's lost. Check. No check, sorry. Check. King d6 and knight f5 check. And now white resigned. But, you know, a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes, and that's why it's important to analyze master games. You know, not read what some random idiots post on a website or a forum. You've got to analyze the games for yourself. I analyzed this game for myself, completely for myself. Almost everything I told you is not, it's not from Bobby Fischer's memorable games. I don't think this game is in there, although it might be. I don't think so. I believe not. It's, you know, it's my analysis of this game, everything that you heard now. Okay, so we got another game. Let's do Redusa versus, no, we did Redusa. Okay, let's do Kamsky versus Krennic. This is our last one. Oh, this is an ancient or what? Yeah, okay, so 94, when they were young. Learning bingo. Horse bingo. I only analyze games by subscribers because it's a reward for people who subscribe to the stream. So I can't just do random people. It's against my religion. But if you subscribe or if you get subscribed, then I will analyze said games. All right. Next is submitted by, this was from Eton. So this is ancient history. This was 1994 when they were young. Both Kamsky and Kramnik were very young. Of course, Kamsky ages are a little bit evading me at the moment, but God is a few years younger than me. They're both a few years younger than me. I guess Kramnik's younger than Kamsky, but not by a lot. All right, so knight f3, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3. Oh, we want to be black. I'm more of a fan of Kramnik, except for the recent craziness. As a player, I respect Kramnik. I think Kramnik is a much greater player than Kamsky. Kamsky, he's a great player. He works very hard at the board, um, but he's not brilliant. He's not brilliant in the World Championship way that like Kramnik was. Although I do feel like a little weird about Kramnik's World Championshipness because honestly, not to bring up another conspiracy theory, but I do feel like Kasparov lost on purpose in that 2001 World Championship match. Honestly, even if Kasparov didn't literally lose on purpose, he wasn't fully there. If anybody remembers Kasparov playing World Championship in 2001, he didn't win a single game. So you can call it what you want, like intentionally handing over the title to Kramnik or losing on purpose, or he just didn't really care. But it's a little bit like watching Anand play Magnus Carlsen. Um, I don't feel like Kramnik was as legit a world champion as pretty much most of the world champions before him. Nevertheless, he was arguably probably the strongest player in the world for a brief period. All right, knight f3, knight f6, c4. But in terms of brilliance, he's definitely better than Kamsky. Kamsky is not that deep. So c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4. This is a good line. It's a like neo Nimzo. Um, I never played this way with black. Personally, I have played with white with mixed results. Now, I have the weird novelty knight a4. Has anyone ever played my move? No. If you look, player, Sparkle Horse is black, Sparkle Horse is white. I have 15 games here with white. A lot more if you count games that aren't recorded on Lichess. Um, just a fun variation that's inspired by some similar things. It's nothing. It's nothing. I mean, objectively, maybe black is like a tiny bit better. 0.1 advantage to black after knight a4. But I would play this a lot of times just to throw people like out of their book. It's upsetting psychologically to face knight a4 because it throws off your plan. Now you suddenly have to play some position you've never played before. All of your plans of like doubling the pawns and playing it like a Nimzo are out the window. So this move, even though it's objectively not a great move, and white has a negative zero point 0.1 disadvantage, it has a lot of practical value. It's like, okay, obviously, if you if you want to compare it to something, you compare it to the Rosslimo, should be 5 knight a5. But here you are black. It is much more dangerous to take liberties like this. My move, unlike this, has the justification that we were white in the first place, so we have an extra move. So I think, you know, and there is another move by, Krasenkov, who invented G4, that if you want to play like a psychopath, um, because G7 is not protected. If you try to take spawn, There's rook g1 and rook takes g7 in a lot of lines. You thought about queen a4. Well, queen a4 is a whole nother story. Because after queen a4, black has choices. But I mean, among those choices is like bishop takes c3. There at least black can play his little Nimzo doubled pawn type thing, you know. And the queen is not necessarily well placed on the side of the board. So, okay, it's also a possibility. You could force black to make a decision. Interesting. Anyway, so g3 is like a main move. And you can see here Kramnik played this position, you know, also with white. Castles, bishop g2. And now we have an interesting moment. Well, black has a lot of options. c5, d5, rook e8, d6, which is a very typical Nimzo-like move. The one thing that we probably have to be careful about is b6, although it looks like even b6 has been played. Kramnik Anand, 1993. Anand lost to Ripley in 88 when he was still very young. So 95. Ripley Anand, no surprise. Ripley loves this type of 95 stuff. So b6 is a little risky. d5 is very standard. All right, so c5, and now you see there is a knight a4. So Sladgy, Tukmakov is still alive. I don't know if he's in Switzerland or he's still in Odessa, but I friended him on Facebook, and he's of course a legendary Ukrainian grandmaster. But I know like even Odessa has come under attack by the Russians, so I'm not sure. Maybe Tukmakov is out of there. But it's so cool that there are still these legendary players like Ripley, like Tukmakov, like Portish here in Hungary, like Romanishin. A lot of them are still around kicking. Knight A4 by Tukmakov played in 1975. But this is a little bit more justified than my move because you're also on c5, and so you're threatening to unplug that pawn by attacking the c5 pawn. It's still very abstract. So black plays knight c6, and now d4. At first I'm like a tiny bit surprised that d4 is the main move here. But actually we're going to transpose to a type of symmetrical English now. I mean, I guess it always felt like a symmetrical English, but it wasn't really. Black didn't play c5 till late. So now he can play bishop takes c3. That's effectively a Nimzo. It's like bringing back memories of the time that Hans beat Magnus. That was a different line. That was a different line with d5. All right. Anyway, this is a type of Nimzo, Kasparov Nimzo. But instead, Kramnik plays pawn takes pawn, which is like safer. I mean, pawn takes pawn is very principled. You're not committing to giving up your dark square bishop. If you give up the dark square bishop now, you're in a lot of trouble. Maybe the only way to do that would be to take and play d5 with a bad Tarash. If you take here, black has a quite bad Tarash. How big is white's advantage? It's not that bad, actually. Charbonneau won a game in 98. I played him around the same time in the U.S. Amateur Team Championship, maybe 2 years later, maybe 2000, but Ironically, he also played the black side of a symmetrical English against me. Here, Hey Bear had a very good position with white, but I think that it's playable for black. It's just hard to believe anybody could ever win a game there. A6 is horrible. So Kramnik plays the best move, it looks like statistically. Queen E7. This bishop on B4 is a bit weird here. It's not clear what white should do. It looks like Kramnik lost this game against yeah, but this is wrong, man. It's not Kamsky Kramnik. It looks like it's Kamsky Kramnik. It's not Kamsky Kramnik. It's Kramnik Kamsky. And that would actually make more sense. What if this is Kramnik Kamsky? I mean, the opening makes more sense from Kramnik playing white. I don't think that Kramnik would play this way with black. He plays all this knight f3 English stuff, dude. And it looks like black is out of book. It doesn't really know what he's doing. I think the games are flipped. This has got to be Kamsky as black and Kramnik as white. The Lichess Opening Explorer says it's that way, and I believe it. So this has been transposed. PCA quarterfinal. It's a candidates match for PCA championship. It makes sense. Kramnik played white. Kamsky's playing something weird. And so white's better. He plays knight c2. Gotta gives up his bishop. But now there's this threat of bishop a3, which is really nasty. So you have to play either rook d8 or d6. But it would be like typical for Kamsky to get like a bad position because he was never very well trained in the openings. Kramnik way stronger in the opening. Somehow he swindles Kramnik later on because he's such a tough fighter. This makes sense. Rook d8, bishop a3. White has like a definite advantage here. But okay, it's dynamic. Tukmakov or Romanishin, Ribley, look at these kind of guys, of course. White has so much pressure. B file, 2 bishops. But the doubled pawns is a compensation. But notice that like Kramnik's losing to Kamsky, the only game white has ever lost in this position. White is better. But the following move, is this a concrete mistake? Because no one else played rook b1. And it is clearly a very obvious move that maybe just felt natural, but it doesn't do anything. It's just a time waster. So God is able to play queen c7 now, get out of the pin, and now he's actually threatening stuff like knight e5, knight a5 to attack the c4 pawn. Kramnik plays knight d4, threatening knight b5, crushing. So it's a6. a6, very weakening move. What would happen if a6? Well, at the very least, black has a lot of issues with the pressure from the bishops. It's safe to say that black probably doesn't have much in the way of winning chances here. But after knight takes d4, maybe he still does. So knight takes d4, and Kramnik can take with the queen. It looks like taking with the pawn, black's going to grab c4. I mean, so what's the deal with queen takes d4? I still can't play b6. We can't play rook b8 without dropping a7. Can't play bishop d7 without dropping b7. So what exactly happens after this? I can probably tell you, I mean, e5 is possible, right? With ideas of bishop e6? No, we still can't do that. But where does white go after e5 without dropping c4? You have to go to h4. And the situation would be very complicated. For example, bishop e6, rook takes b7, queen takes c4. Let's see what the engine says. It's slightly better for white. Queen takes, bishop takes, rook c7. I thought rook c8, but this move. It's close. So knight d4. But I think my bottom line is that queen takes d4, it might actually be a bit safer for Kramnik to not sacrifice a pawn here. Instead, he takes and sacrifices this pawn. So it looks like he still has compensation. He's Kramnik. I'm not anywhere near his level. But hindsight is 2020. It might have been safer to not sack the pawn. Queen d2. He still has. I mean, I think also taking the player's style into consideration, you have to be careful about sacking pawns against Kamsky because he's like a great defender, and he won't mind like doing like a Korchnoi type of thing, like suffering, and then slowly grinding you down in a long game. I would be reluctant to sacrifice that pawn against Kamsky. Queen a6, rook b3, and now the writing is on the wall. Gotta ate a pawn, and he's turning into Viktor Korchnoi now. And it looks like Kramnik is getting desperate. He plays e4. But this doesn't have, there's no threat. This is even defended. Bishop d7. Everything's defended. Rook f3. Poor Kramnik. Kramnik totally lost the thread, man. So now he's desperate, trying to do some kind of rook sack on f6. Bishop a4. Rook e1. And then rook on bc8. So it's not Kamsky-Kramnik. It's Kramnik-Kamsky. And then bishop f1. Well, white's totally losing. Clear pawn down. The last thing you want to do is trade bishops here. So bishop h3, queen a4, d5. That's annoying. He's got pressure here, maybe opening up the structure. Good. Rook c2, attacking the queen. Queen e3, and now e takes d5. And there goes another rubber tree plant. No back rank. No fancy rook sacrifices are going to save Kramnik. There is queen g5. I'm wondering. But I guess black just has h6 there. But maybe this is worth a try. No doubt he calculated it. Yeah, h6 just wins. So the computer thinks the rook sack is white's best chance at this point, but it's unsound. So it was a typical Kamsky game. e5 desperation. And now black finds a tricky move. d4, and between, queen g5. We're expecting h6. We're definitely expecting h6. And it looks like it wasn't even necessary. Gotta finds this move. Very nasty move. Attacking e5, attacking the back rank, the undefended rook. Rook takes e2 can be met by queen d1 check, which is like a mating net. So white takes here, check, king g2, no, bishop f1, ouch. Rook takes f1, and then let's guess, rook g1 check, right? Rook g1, and now if he takes, he's mated by queen d1 check, so he has to go up, and he goes up, check, king h4, and now black has only one move, g6, but there's no mate. Because of this beautiful sequence, queen h6, d3 check. With a slight problem at g4, he has rook f4. So unclear how far both sides were able to actually calculate this. Kamsky actually was able to win with queen takes f4, queen takes f4, rook h1. Wow. That is impressive. g4 defending h2, h6. Are you kidding me? This pawn is a problem. A lot of calculation at the end there. King h3, g5, queen d4, and then rook g1. Got to play f3. That is insane. And so the final threat is what? Bishop b5, d2, queen d2, bishop b5, an unstoppable bishop f1. What's really striking is the calculation that young Kamsky was capable of here. You know, this isn't about just being lucky. Yeah, the game is definitely Kramnik-Kamsky. The battle of the style there was pretty evident. Personally, I wouldn't have played queen takes d4. I mean, I would have played queen takes d4. But okay, Kramnik wasn't really fully Kramnik yet in 1994. He was just almost there. He would eventually be stronger than Kamsky. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. It was a great stream. I will see you Sunday. No, sorry. I will see you tomorrow. Blitz stream around 1 p.m. Friday morning, afternoon. See you there. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for sharing your games. Thanks for subscribing. Haha. Thanks for donation. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.